items that don't. Uh,
All right,
Great.
sorry, just
No,
deciding.
no problem. Yeah. Yeah. So it's good to start recording. And yeah, we can wait for a quorum while we go through some of the non-voting items. And we can skip around on the agenda if we need to. And yeah, if you want to continue to just try to be in touch with folks to make sure we can get that, that would be great. And yeah, for now we can get started. So welcome everyone to this meeting of the Northern Middlesex Metropolitan Planning Organization. Go ahead and start with welcome and introductions. So will someone be reading the roll today?
Sure. I will read the roll. We have Derek Cravat.
Yep, Derek Cravat here representing MassDOT Secretary and CEO Monica Tibbetts-Nutt.
Brian Fallon.
Yes, Brian Fallon representing Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver.
Thank you. Pat Wilches.
I'm here representing NMMPO.
Thank you. Tom Beaumont, I do not believe is here. Jane Wellman is not here. Karen Julio, not yet here, and Wayne Janess is not yet here. So we have Derek, Brian, and Pat here from the MPO.
Okay, great. And are we waiting on one more for a quorum?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Well, welcome everyone. We'll move on to open forum for public comments. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to not item 3 since that's an action item, but we can move on to the TIP project status report. Tim, if you want to, yep, perfect. Turn it over to the district. Or Brian.
Yeah, I'll take over. I don't see Tim on the call, but he did give me this list here. 613, 213, Bedford, Billerica, Chelmsford, Tingsboro Bridge preservation of 41 bridges on the Route 3 corridor. The add date has been set at July 13th, 2024, and the contract cost has been revised to $10,114,464.35. Let's see, 602, 694 Lowell Connector reconstruction from Thorndike Street to Gorham Street. We received the 25% recently on that, and with that we got a cost estimate, and it was $10,066,437.16. 609035 Westford rehabilitation of Boston Road. We moved the ad date back to June 22nd. It was advertised 2024. And 605966 Lowell reconstruction and related work on the VFW highway. We pushed out the ad date about a month. It's now December 2021-24. Still scheduled to be advertised in fiscal year 2025. And that's the major changes.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions? All right. Can move on to if there's any update on the LRTA. Or anything here, Justin?
I mean, I could say a couple things.
Sure.
We are coming to completion on our ABL APC annunciator project for fixed route. We still have one bus that is coming in that we'll need to install the items on. But that's coming to conclusion very soon. And along with that, we'll have a new kind of bus tracker app for our system, and that's planned to go online July 15th. So stay tuned for that. We'll have all sorts of updates on our website for that, and you'll see in some of the amendments we've got we're adding some state funds to our facility and equipment improvement project, and we also received a community transit grant award for several new vans, but I'll let those amendments go into more details on that. So that's about it.
Thanks, Justin. Any questions?
Actually,
Alright.
Justin, can I
Go ahead.
ask a quick question?
Yep.
Would it be helpful if I help out with Trillium as far as updating the online route data? For the routes that used to be combined that were just uncombined a few days ago? Since I just created those maps for you guys,
Yeah.
I could hand that data over to Trillium, and that might be helpful, just a comment.
I mean, they have the data. We just met with them yesterday. They're updating the website as we speak. I mean, you may have seen some issues with our website this morning, but they've got the data, Blake, and they're working on it. So hopefully here in the next day or two, everything will be updated.
All right, sounds like good news. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Justin. Thanks, Blake. So I think we have a quorum now.
We do, yes.
Great.
Karen, Julio and Wayne Janessa are both here.
Awesome, sounds good. So with that, we can move back to the third item, which is the meeting minutes from the May MPO meeting from May 22nd. So I'll ask for a motion and second to approve these meeting minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. All right, motion been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? Seeing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Great, so we have Wayne Janessa,
Yes.
Karen Julio,
Yes.
Derek Cravat,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Pat Wolchus.
Yes.
I believe that is it for who is here today. Roll call, all approved.
All right, great. Move on to, since we just covered agenda item 4, we'll move on to item 5, which is the fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Derek. So this is Kelly Lynham, the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. Just wanted to fill you in on the public comment period, anything we heard regarding the Unified Planning Work Program. And just as far as, so presenting those public comments and any changes that were made to the UPWP, and then asking for a vote of the MPO to endorse, so that we can then move on into July and submit that to our federal, state, and regional stakeholders. And then in October, that will become our official work plan. So just as a public comment summary, we had a public meeting earlier in June. Andrew Jennings was there, but did not submit any formal comments at that time. And then later we did receive 2 public comments. So as one of those comments was a request for an LRTA ridership study along Route 113 between Lowell and Tyngsboro. And in response to that, I didn't want to necessarily provide a very prescriptive response to doing a ridership study, but noted that we added a proposed activity under subtask 7.2, in which we indicated that we would coordinate with the LRTA and any other neighboring transit authorities in identifying ridership studies on existing and potential future transit routes. So that was our response to that. It was just a small addition to the activities under 7.2. And then the other comment was making sure that we were programming time to assist in the development of the LRTA's next regional transit plan. So again, we added that as a proposed activity under 7.2. You know, Justin and other members of the LRTA here know that we have a monthly coordination call with them. And so those are items that we will also, and we indicated in the public comment section that that is something we will continue to have conversations with the LRTA on, so we can maintain our coordination on those two elements and our other ongoing work with the LRTA. We received 2 comments from MassDOT. One was regarding adding the public comment section, and we did that in Appendix B. And then another adjustment was to add a small section, or was to provide additional details on our proposed use of deobligated funds. So those $270,000-ish that we were requesting from MassDOT that we had not spent under the 3 prior years of UPWP. We had requested that those be allocated to 4 different subclass And so we provided additional detail in each one of those subtasks to indicate how we would be working with a consultant, a rough scope of work, and then the cost of those requested PL funds, just to make sure that we're being very clear in the delineation between our current UPWP funding our staff hours, and then the separate funds that we are requesting specifically for consultant work. And so that was something that we added to the UPWP. And then finally, we did have a few comments just based on internal staff review, and looking back at prior UPWPs and how we were spending our time. So we just made a few adjustments, looking back on how our GIS and IT manager spends their time. So made a few minor adjustments to how his hours are allocated over the next federal fiscal year, clarifying some of the activities and deliverables under those two primary GIS and technology related tasks, which are access to our data and mapping in GIS. And then finally, with the upcoming, with the release of the Greater Lowell Vision Zero plan for public comment and the anticipated, we'll be bringing that back to this board in July. We just wanted to make sure we were very clear in subtask 5.3 that it's not just about road safety audits, but really about future and ongoing implementation and a commitment to the Greater Lowell Vision Zero plan. So we clarified a few of the subtasks there. We didn't substantively change the content of that task, but just wanted to be very clear that that task was explicitly about whether it's road safety audits or doing a road safety toolkit or something else. It's about continuing the work that is recommended as part of that plan in the next federal fiscal year. So those were the primary changes. As I mentioned, we have this I sent this amended UPWP to you all last night and indicated sections that had been changed. We are requesting the NPO's endorsement. Should the NPO vote to endorse that today, we'll be submitting that to MassDOT for the secretary's signature, posting to our website, distributing it to our federal, state, and regional stakeholders, and then in October, that will become our official scope of work for the next federal fiscal year.
Great, thanks, Kelly.
Mhm.
Any comments or questions before I ask for that motion in second?
I just have a one correction, I think, to make in appendix B, and you can confirm this, Mary. It refers to Andrew Jennings as a resident of Lowell. I believe he lives in Billerica.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, I will correct that. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat.
Other questions? Derek?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to clarify what the final budget is for the safety task at this time, given the change.
The final budget remains as is. We did include the request for PL funds in that budget, but the staff time, whether or not those PL funds are allocated, the staff time will remain the same. So the budget for that task did not change.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, other questions? All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion and second to approve the fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program.
Make that motion.
Second, great. All right, okay, I heard a second as well. So motion having been made and seconded, go ahead and call the roll.
Wayne Janess,
Yes.
Karen Pulio,
Yes.
Derek Cravat,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Pat Wolters,
Yes.
roll call, all of them.
All right, thanks everyone. And yeah, looking forward to working with you on those next steps. And yeah, great job putting this together. Well, it's always a lot of work and I appreciate the collaboration on it as always. We'll move on to item 6, which is Transportation Improvement Program, Amendment number 4. I'll turn it back over to you all.
Sure. So, Austin, do you want to provide an overview of the first part of this, and then we can explain the APG after that?
Sure.
Okay.
Austin Suarez Davis, for those of you who don't know me, I don't know who's all here on the screen, transportation planner here with NMMPO. Amendment number 4 covers changes to 2 programs, projects in the TIP. The first one is the work bridge replacement. there's two aspects of this that would need to be updated. One is just a project description, which originally said that, this bridge was going to be crossing the Boston and Maine Railroad. That description has been updated to refer to CSX rather than Boston and Maine. Probably the much bigger aspect of this though is a cost increase of 44%. So this project is currently programmed at $169 million. Now the total federal participating cost is 198 million. And due to a couple factors, this would need to increase to about 244 million, which is an increase of 44%. Essentially, this covers updated costs for concrete per cubic yard, and that's kind of the crux of the increase there, or the reasoning behind the increase. I'm happy at that point. Maybe defer to Derek if you have anything to add to that before we get into the second aspect of amendment number 4.
Yeah, just to clarify, because I know it's not very clear what HIP-BR means. So as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law, Massachusetts received funding, non-core formula funding, called Bridge Formula Program funding, which is what we were using in the first place to fund Rourke Bridge. Massachusetts is receiving about $250 to $300 million a year from 2022 through 2026 of that color of funding. Given the cost increases, we needed to make sure that we had Bridge Formula Program funding availability, not only through 2024, but in future years in order to be able to afford this cost increase. And we do, but where this project previously only showed up in federal fiscal year 2024 of your TIP, the amendment is to include funding in both 24 and 2025 of the TIP as well, and possibly 26. I have to double check. So that's a principal change in the sense that it's no longer going to be funded over 1 year, but now multiple. We call that an AC project, or for advanced construction project. I'm happy to answer any detailed questions about that if there are any otherwise. Thanks.
Thanks, Schuster. Any questions, Justin?
Thank you. What is the official design status? Where are we at?
I'm going to defer
Made
to
25% yet.
Yeah, Brian or District, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the RFP is going out for advertisement this summer. Let me get you an exact date and I'll chime in again in a few minutes.
So it was like, it was supposed to go at 25%. It was, it's design build, so it was supposed to.
Yeah.
So as of this past week, it shows as 25% design, but 25% design is what design build projects show as in project info right up until they're ready to advertise. And this is still showing a September 14th advertisement date, the last Saturday that we can advertise this fiscal year. But it's advanced to the point design wise that MassDOT feels confident in that $243.5 million number.
Okay, thank you.
Wayne?
Thank you. Just a couple quick little questions. One is there's no change to the project timeline in terms of an anticipated end date, correct?
Right.
Correct. It's the
Okay.
same construction schedule. Yes.
Excellent. And then the other question is, as kind of the newbie of the group, I appreciate the going into depth of the funding mechanism of the bipartisan infrastructure bill and that money that's coming for bridges to Massachusetts. What's the difference between HIP-BR and HIP-BRR? Because I noticed one of them went from 0 to 21 million.
No, that's a great question. So, it's there's HIPBR is the core amount that Massachusetts, like other states, get. There's an additional amount of funding that I think 6 states, including Massachusetts, receive for replacement and rehabilitation. It's about $44 million this, sorry, I'm looking at 2025. It's about $40 to $44 million of federal funds a year that can be used in the same way as HIPBR funds. But because we're tapping into that other source, that's how we differentiate when presenting the amendment, and then when it ultimately goes as part of a STIP action to our federal highway partners, that they can understand and track which dollars Massachusetts is assigning for this project.
Okay, great, understood. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to look for the details and actually share them in the chat or with MPO staff for the public information meeting with more information. FHWA has whole websites about it.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Austin, do you want to cover the Billerica project?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. The second aspect of amendment number 4 concerns the Yankee Doodle bike path construction phase 1 in Billerica. This was programmed for this year, but it's going to be being moved from 2024 to 2025. And I believe, and maybe I'll defer again to Derek here, but I believe this is just keeping things aligned with anticipated construction schedule.
Thanks, Austin. Any questions?
So
All right.
I have a question. Given that this is gonna tip year, does that open up funding for 2024 that we don't have anything for it?
No, so this preserves the funding for the project in fiscal year 2025, but because it's officially a 2025 add date, we need to remove it from 24 so that it's available when it comes time to advertise in the fall or
Okay.
whenever the add date is.
Thanks.
Right, it's in a statewide program, so it won't impact regional target. Other questions? All right. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and second to release this for public comment.
So moved.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and call the roll.
All right, Wayne Janess,
Yes.
Karen Julio,
Yes.
Derek Raval,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Pat Wilches,
Yes.
all approved.
All right, thanks everyone. Move on to the next item, which is tip amendment number 5, this time involving transit projects. I'll turn it back over to NMCOG staff.
Blake, do you want to summarize this?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Blake Acton. I am the transit planner at NMCOG, here at NMCOG. And this item is a action item to vote to release amendment number 5 for public comment. This is an amendment to the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, for federal fiscal year 2024 through 2028. And this amendment concerns the transit part of the TIP, since the TIP is divided into highway and transit. And the transit side typically concerns, or almost always concerns, LRTA related projects. And so this specific amendment is a net increase of transit funds of $1.6 million. And there are 2 different proposed changes. The first proposed change is for tip code LRTA 011869. This is to purchase 9 transit vehicles to be used for paratransit and council and aging services. The reason for this change is that LRTA was awarded a community transit grant through the Community Transit Grant Program. And this specific action item, so I'll go through the vehicles that LRTA is purchasing. They're purchasing 4 Type E vehicles, 3 Type E2A vehicles, 1 Type CA vehicle, and 1 Type A EV electric vehicle. And the electric vehicle will be used for the Council on Aging in the town of Acton. So that's exciting. And then the second item is LRTA 011635. That is a $600,000 cost increase. And this is under a project that was originally added to the TIP during Amendment 1 back in January. This project includes a wide variety of different facilities and equipment improvements. I'll just name a few. This is available on our TIP document on our website from Amendment 1. And it will also be in our in Amendment 5 document as well, just for reference, including $400,000 for design of the commuter rail platform and $500,000 or so for bus equipment for ADL system. These items are unchanged in the project, and an item that's being added to this is $600,000 to purchase 1 hybrid electric fixed route bus. And this is a bus that LRTA had already originally planned to purchase. The timeline has not changed, and LRTA is not changing how many buses they're buying. You could describe this change as more of a shifting of the source of funds from federal funds to state funds. And this bus was going to be purchased using the low-no emission grant program that LRTA was awarded this year. But because of the availability of additional state funds, LRTA is going to be using RTA community assistant RTA cap funds to purchase this bus. And so that is, hopefully I didn't miss anything. Justin, do you have any additions you'd like to make to Amendment 5?
No, I think you did really well, Blake.
Yep. Great job, Blake. Thank you.
Great. All right. Are there any questions? Wayne.
Thank you. Just quickly, and this may not be even within the scope of this call, but I'm curious what the LRTA intends to do with the $600,000 in federal funds that this change frees up. Is that already programmed, or is that going to be future decision making?
Yep. So it hasn't changed. So as Blake said, this was just shifting the funding source for this purchase, but that low-no grant, those funds are slated for the purchase of hybrid buses. So we'll just, instead of replacing that one, we'll just tack on one to the other side of it. So we'll just be replacing an additional one in the future. No
Awesome.
change to the number of buses that the federal funds will be used for.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Other questions? All right. Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and second to release this amendment out for public comment as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. All right. Motion having been made and seconded, go ahead and call the roll.
Wayne Hess,
Yes.
Karen Julio,
Yes.
Derek Kavah,
Yes.
Brian Fallon,
Yes.
Scott Wojcik.
Yes.
All approved.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Move on to next item, which is the electric vehicle charging scope of work.
Great. So this is just to present to the NMMPO in our current unified planning work program under task 3.10. It's the task is called EV charging in the Northern Middlesex region. And we had a request from the LRPA, and the reason why I put this on the agenda right after the previous TIP amendment is because of the LRTA's commitment to increasing the percentage or the proportion of its vehicles that are electric vehicles. We had a discussion with the LRTA, and they had asked us to do a study to look at the capacity for EV busing and service vehicles, particularly with regard to roadway and bus restrictions for weight and height. And so this would be a minor, just a minor shift in the scope and just a few additions to some of the scope of that UPWP task. So basically what we'd be looking to do under task 3.10, which is particularly regarding electric vehicles in the Northern Middlesex region, is to conduct a spatial analysis of vehicle restrictions across the region. So we want to map out height and weight restrictions on bridges and overpasses, underpasses, and really assess those restrictions against the current LRTA routes to really understand, as new EV buses are added to the fleet, where are the appropriate routes that those buses can take that are not restricted because of height and weight, because electric vehicles weigh more and they are taller than non-electric vehicles. And so under this scope of work, we would collaborate with the LRTA, we would coordinate with MassDOT, OTP, and district staff to understand future roadway improvements and how to make sure that the weight and height requirements of EVs are incorporated into those future roadway improvements. And then engage with town and city engineers, DCR, and other roadway bridge owners to make sure that we're being comprehensive in how we're thinking about incorporating electric buses and electric service vehicles across the region. The deliverables for this project we would see being delivered before the end of this federal fiscal year. So we're looking at GIS layers and maps, and then a final memorandum and presentation describing these recommendations and our assessment of where these opportunities are or where certain height and weight restrictions exist across the region. So this is really a deliverable primarily focused to the LRTA, but we believe it's of service to other transit providers across the region, and really more broadly in service of understanding the impact and the need to accommodate electric vehicles in the region. So with that, I just wanted to present that scope to the NMMPO. That was something that we had promised in the UPWP, was that we would present the scope of work. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Any questions? Wayne.
Thank you. More just a comment of thank you for taking this on. I also sit on the transportation subcommittee of the Lowell City Council. Last night we met and LRTA came in, Dave Bradley and George's, I'm not going to pronounce George's name because I'm going to get it wrong, came in and were presenting their plans. And one of the things that came up was the effort of implementing EV and hybrid buses, and how the infrastructure can be a challenge, and that's something they're looking at. So to be able to go from that last night to seeing this in front of me today, to know that it's moving forward is really great, and couldn't have been timed better. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Well, we have the LRTA to thank for this. So Justin and Allie brought it up in a fall, and it was their brainchild. So thank you.
It's all interconnected, Wayne. It's all interconnected.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thanks, Kelly. This is just an update, right? No action.
Yeah, just an update,
Yep.
no action, no vote needed.
Great. Sounds good. Well, with that, then we can move on to the fiscal year 25-27 disadvantaged business enterprise goals for the LRTA. Is this you, Justin?
Yeah, sure. Are you gonna drive, Kelly?
Yeah, just tell me when to hit next.
Okay. Okay, so today I'll be discussing basically the process for developing and setting a 3-year goal for disadvantaged business enterprise, or what we call DBE usage by the LRTA. Next slide, please. So to give you a bit of a history of and basically what the DBE is, in 1980, USDOT established this program under an amendment to Title VI of Civil Rights Act of 1964. And it's kind of an effort by the USDOT to ensure non-discrimination in the award and administration of federal contracts, and really the purpose is that it seeks to create kind of a level playing field in which minority or women-owned businesses can compete fairly for those federal contracts. And the USDOT DBE program, it really involves three facets, and we're going to focus on one of those today, which is the goal setting and reporting category. And that really applies directly to what we do at the LRTA. And the other two categories are more business focused. So you'll see firms will work with the US DOT to become what we call a certified DBE business. So they're eligible for these for this program. And another category, working on efforts on both like the procurement and the contractor ends, working to achieve those non-discrimination goals set forth in the Title VI. So next slide, please. So today we're focusing on the goal setting process itself, and the overall goal is the amount of federal financial assistance the LRTA would expend with DBE businesses on any kind of DOT assisted contracts, and that is exclusive of any funds used to purchase transit vehicles. So any of the other projects outside of purchasing buses. And this goal is updated every 3 years. Excuse me. And the process for setting the goal, it starts with the establishment of a baseline goal figure. And establishing that goal really starts with identifying the federally funded projects that plan to be constructed or happen during the 3-year goal setting period, which comes from the LRTA's capital improvement plan, which feeds into the MPO tip, which was just endorsed last month. And so these would include some of the projects on the tip, like the Commuter Access Way project, the McGuire Facility Improvement projects, general terminal and building maintenance projects that would be in the first 3 years of your tip, IT equipment, purchasing of parts, as well as operating assistance. So those are some of the things that are used in identifying those projects. So with that, the LRTA needs to identify the total number of businesses that may be involved or get contracts with the identified projects in the CIP. And we identify them based on what we call a census. I call it NICS, NAICS code. And that identifies the different categories of businesses that could be retained to complete any kind of federal projects over the next 3 years. And once we determine those categories, it was approximately 30 of them, we identified over 12,000 businesses in and around the greater Lowell area that could be involved with that. Once those businesses were identified, we used the state's list of certified DBE businesses and identified 463 DBEs that fall into those 30 categories. With that, we then were able to develop that baseline goal, which is basically your DBEs divided by your total businesses. And we came up with the baseline figure of 3.84%. So next slide, please. And to determine the actual final goal, we need to adjust that baseline figure based on how the LRTA has spent money over the past few years with DBE businesses. And this kind of gives us a more accurate look at how we've been actually spending, and we take that and we compare that to the baseline proposed goal, and we come up with a final goal which came out to 4.61%. In comparison, our previous goal 3 years ago was at 5.85%. So that means we're shooting to award at least 4.6% of our federal funds to these DBE certified businesses. Okay, next slide, please. So looking at the timeline for this process, On June 17th, the goal and methodology report were made available for a 45-day public review period, and they're posted on the LRTA website, and has been posted in the newspapers and local media. And that leads us to today's NPO meeting, where we're presenting the goals and the methodology in a kind of public meeting setting. And actually, FTA requires a 30-day review of the goal itself and a 45-day for the actual process. So the goals are, so for simplicity's sake, we combine the process and the goal setting methodology review to include everything for 45 days. So everything is available for 45 days. And that leads us to, at the end of that period, August 1st deadline, we submit those goals with any kind of comments addressed to the FTA. And once approved by the FTA, the goal goes into effect at the start of federal fiscal year 25. And at the end of that, in order to report how we're working to achieve our goal that we set, the FTA requires semi-annual reporting of the LRTA's efforts. And those are typically done in December and June of each year. So next slide, please. So if you'd like to review further, we put the methodology report and the notice of goal setting. It's all posted on the LRTA website. It was also included as a link in the NPO announcement emails. If you have any comments or questions, Megan O'Brien and I can take them today, or you can email us anytime before August 1st. If you want to mail comments, there's our addresses on the screen here. Feel free to do so. We really don't need a vote of the NPO to finalize these goals. This is mainly informational because it works with how we spend our federal transportation dollars. And with that, I can take any questions anyone has.
Great. Thanks, Justin. Any questions? Don't see any questions, but this was a great overview, Justin. So thank you. And I'm sure folks have taken down that contact info. So if anything does come up, we'll know how to reach you.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, thanks, Justin. All right, move on to the next item, which is the TIP project review study for Route 110 and Tadmuck Road in Westford.
So I just want to thank Jessica Bollinger for preparing the report on the TIP project review study, and she's going to give a presentation just summarizing the results of that report. Do you want to drive, or do you want to? Okay.
Hi everyone, this is the signal improvement or intersection improvement project at Route 110, Littleton Road and Tadmuck Road in Westford. This project was programmed on the 2016 to 2019 TIP document, and it was initially advertised in 2016. The report analyzes and compares the safety conditions before and after the project completion to understand the project's impact. The effectiveness of this project is measured by examining the total number of crashes, the severity of crashes by the project location. And it's important to note that there is senior housing, or the Westford Housing Authority is on 65 Tadmuck Road in Westford. Next slide, please. So this is an aerial image of the intersection prior to the TIP project. There were several studies that were conducted prior to the project's advertisement date, and the most notable were the 2011 traffic impact study by Vaness and Associates. And this was in response to a 200-unit proposed development by Princeton Properties. It's a property management company. And in 2013, a functional design report was conducted by VHB to meet the MassDOT 25% design standards. And on the slide here, you'll see that this project received a 6.5 score on the NPO's TEC, that's the transportation evaluation criteria. And that criteria is used to address the competitiveness of our TIP programming. we create a score on TIP projects to rank them in terms of priority to meet our regional objectives. And on the screen here, you'll see the total project cost is about 2.6 million. And that is comprised of TAP funds, so it's the Transportation Alternative Program, and also CMAQ funds, that's the Congestion Management and Air Quality Funds, because this project addressed some congestion issues which improved air quality. Next slide. These are the current conditions. So essentially the project included new striping, geometry reconfiguration, ADA compliance features, and traffic control improvements for new signals. Next slide. On the slide here, you will see that there's been a reduction in the crash rates. The first one is personal injury crashes, and then the second displays property damage crashes. There's been a slight decrease in the numbers, and of course, this includes the pandemic years. However, over time, when we continue to monitor it, and it's likely that we will continue to see a reduction due to the intersections improvements that were completed on it. Next slide. So here is an image of the before and after. You can see the alignment's been improved, there's curb extensions, ADA compliance. Next slide. And then this is another before and after image. Next slide. And then there are a few final considerations for future projects and ongoing monitoring. So I recommended on here that, and in the document, that we continue collaboration and working across disciplines with safety specialists, transportation planners to integrate more transportation plans along this corridor. There's a few really big upcoming projects. So the MassWorks project, the King Street Common development in Littleton. It's a really massive mixed-use development that's underway. It's been funded using the MassWorks program. Second, the town of Westford has assigned an MBTA zone in this area. And just last week, before the select board, was consideration of a new multifamily housing development right on this corridor, and that's where you see the aerial image. So I actually voted on it last night. And that concludes my presentation, or my first presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
And this also relates to the document that we sent out earlier this week with the larger report.
Great. Thanks, Jessica. Any questions? Great. Well, it's great to see. It's probably something we don't do often enough is compare before and after. So it's really great to see that. So just want to acknowledge that. But we can move on to freight planning, which turn it back over to you, Jessica.
Thank you. And the next item is the freight plan memo. This was under our federal fiscal year 2024 EPWP. And the purpose of creating the freight plan memo was to identify tasks that were completed, that were achieved through the MassDOT 2023 statewide freight plan, and clarify how NMMPO staff can advance the plan's recommendations for our region specifically. On the left-hand side, you'll see the current activities, and these are ways that we are satisfying our freight requirements in terms of having approved performance measures. We are continuing to score projects against our transportation evaluation criteria. We're refining and updating our critical rural and urban freight corridors using the MassDOT data sets. And then we're reporting and presenting our freight planning data through our annual track volume data. And the areas for expansion are creating an inventory of existing and potential new truck parking locations. This includes commercial truck stops in public rest areas along major highways, identifying and monitoring region-wide truck routes, regional freight corridors, and alternative routes to understand truck movement in our region and in our network, creating an inventory of major and small businesses with truck and freight activities and needs, identify, develop, and populate our region's freight stakeholders' contact information, and conduct prospective outreach. And then identify weight and height restrictions on local and interstate roads for freight vehicles and freight travel. So those are areas that we can expand on that we're doing. Next slide, please. And then these are some areas for future research. This is develop detailed maps of freight corridors in the NMMPO region, address bottlenecks in the northern Middlesex freight network, monitor freight demand in the NMPO region, engage freight stakeholders, focus on existing and potential freight truck parking sites, and work with MassDOT to identify methods for linking bridge conditions and freight traffic. And we know that our major freight corridors are in Billerica. There's the FedEx freight location, which is in North Billerica on Republic Road, another main freight corridor in our region also in Billerica, and this is the air cargo demand. So there's a lot of air cargo that actually comes to Boston Logan Airport and is moved to the Omni Logistics Company, which is on Salem Road in Billerica, and they're very close together. So it's a network that we should continue to monitor for ongoing e-commerce needs in our region. And the slide displays the areas for future coordination. So the first item is supporting a more holistic coordination through feasibility assessments for greater synergy among completing interest and demands for transportation, environmental, and economic goals. If there's a new housing development, it's important that you think about getting packages and freight needs to that specific development. So just advocating really for a more holistic look at development in our region. Also coordinating with New Hampshire and our neighboring communities to support and understand freight demands and opportunities. And the last item is there's a new national standard for freight rail lines of 286,000 weight limit for transit, that's the rail. And there's an effort across the state to increase the weight limit on the rail corridors. There's been a lot of efforts that have happened on the coast or towards Cape Cod area, but our region hasn't been updated to those weight standards, and that was a recommendation from the state's plan. So that's something that we should continue to work with MassDOT on if there are opportunities to improve that here. And that concludes my presentation.
Great. Thanks, Jessica. Any questions on the freight planning work? All right. Seeing none. So yeah, again, all great stuff. I know that the critical freight corridors are definitely of interest to us as well. I think the freight plan at MassDOT was more focused on state roads and interstates and things like that. So having a more granular look at roads that kind of pop up at our region on a regional level and analysis was really useful. So appreciate any collaboration there, and happy to put you in touch with Michaela Niles as well, who's our freight coordinator if you don't already know her, because she'd be a good resource for all that work as well. So all right, well, with that we'll move on to the next item, which is the discussion on Lowell Drake Methuen resurfacing and related work on Route 110. Route 110 getting a lot of good action today.
So the primary purpose for us putting this on the agenda, and then O'Brien, we've been in touch regarding ongoing work with Route 110. There was a public meeting last week in Drake regarding this resurfacing project, and I think, overall at this point, staff, we don't have an organized response to this, but I think one of the purposes of putting this on the agenda today was just to make sure that as an NPO, we're aware of the proposal for Route 110, that we're participating in this project because it does both influence Lowell and Drake, but also regional multimodal transportation. And I think one of the things that we just wanted to understand, and I think Brian, maybe you have some answers to this, is what is the timeline for the public comment period? And what is, basically by when do we need to organize a response to the proposed design or the final design? And are there any other future public meetings? I think one of the things that staff heard at the public meeting in Drake last week was that there may be other maybe local or regional public meetings that are going to happen as a result of this, as a result of last week's meeting. And so we just wanted to understand if there are any other dates that we should be aware of or help to promote across the region. That's something we'd love to know more.
Sure, yeah. I was at that public information meeting last week, and hearing the comments from the various stakeholders, and we certainly had a lot of differing opinions on the design, and it's been evolving. So I know that there was definitely some information that needed to get out as to how we got to where we are and why we are proposing what we're now proposing, which is basically a buffered bike lane on each side of Route 110. And there's going to be some flex posts in the design, but only in targeted areas. And those would be areas where the buffer narrows down to something less than what we would like. And certainly at some challenging intersections, we're going to be adding some of those visual cues to kind of let everybody know that they're sharing the road with a bicyclist and the space allocation is important at these locations. So basically, this started off and still is a pavement preservation project, and it's on a yearly program that's basically set up by our pavement management section at headquarters. And what we try to do in these projects, even though it's limited to as much as we can do inside the layout of state highways, we don't do any property taking. So it's kind of a low impact maintenance style project. But we are required to include any kind of bicycle and pedestrian improvements that we can do it as part of this project and keep it within the scope of work and meet the advertising date. Currently, the advertising date is in mid-August of this year, and that's when the money is funded. It's scheduled to be it's programmed for this year. So the end of our year is September, and we would really like to advertise this project, get it out to a contractor, because this project is really to address the roadway surface. That's really one of the first and foremost points of this job. Secondly, is to include other modes of transportation. And third, we would like to calm traffic. And we've heard a lot of feedback about speeds, people leaving lanes, crossover accidents, etc. So part of this project is rumble strips, but at the rumble strips that they don't make noise outside the car, they just vibrate the car. They're called sinusoidal rumble strips. So they're a different and newer kind of strip we're using. We're using them on the center line on a lot of parts of this project, and we're using them on the shoulder between the travel lane and the bicycle lane to give that extra cue to vehicles not to cross over into the painted buffered bike lane. And as far as future public meetings, just from the meeting that I went to and just discussing with the project manager, I know that Representative Ryan Hamilton requested a meeting with him and the mayor of Methuen, and I believe other town and city officials will be invited along, affected people along the corridor. And I believe that is going to be scheduled. Comment period, it's continuous. If there is comments, the design team is taking all comments and considering all comments and incorporating them to the best of their ability. But again, really looking to advertise this project in mid-August of this year. So that's kind of the update that I have.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Karen?
Thanks. The question is more in general, candidly, as we refer to lanes such as bike lanes, but I'm starting to see them, used heavily for any vehicle that is not four wheels. So there's, the bikes that are electrified versus bikes that are people powered, scooters that are electrified, those type of things. Is there any legislation going on anywhere, or any safety focus that is going on anywhere as those type of small two-wheeled vehicles typically are increasing on the roads and don't have, I'll use I'll use the word natural safety that comes with a person powered bike?
That is a great question, because I have started to see the use of electric powered bicycles and scooters, and they certainly travel at a different speed than a propelled bicycle. So I don't know. It's a good question. I can certainly pass it up to our complete streets engineer and see if there's been any kind of determination on that as far as who is actually allowed in a bike lane and who should be on the roadway. And I think that's a good question, but I'd have to get some more information on that.
Okay. I think it's going to become more and more relevant as we, grow in that space. And I just, it's exponential the way it's going. And I think too, with our milder winters, you're seeing it, happening at all 4 seasons now versus, go back 10 years and bikes were a 2.5, 3 season thing. And they're really turning into a 4 season. And I think it's a different awareness, probably different programming. And if we're calling it a bike lane, it's a bike lane, but there's different expectations, and that travel speed is very different. And you have to be, just a different type of driving we need to do in the cars if the items are traveling that fast beside us, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Karen. Wayne?
Thank you. Yeah, I was in attendance at that meeting in Drake too, so I won't repeat my comments there, but I will share with the group here that I heard from several of my constituents who were disappointed to lose the shared use path in the original proposal of this project. This stretch is obviously an important corridor for cars and other vehicles, but it's kind of the critical link if you're on a bike between Lowell and Lawrence. There's no other way to go, really. You can't go out to 495 on your bike. So the improvements that are done to this road probably will have more of an impact of biking between the two cities than anything else that could possibly be done. So where this is something that's happening now, it's just important to make sure that that's part of the discussion. And I know you guys know that, but just because it's been shared with me by multiple people who are reliant on their bikes to get to Lawrence. There's a guy who lives in my building who does that commute every single day on his bike, except when it's pouring rain. I just wanted to share that with the group. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to kind of, we started with that shared use path cross section, and that's kind of what we wanted to build. We went forward with that. We advanced our plans, I think, to 75% with that shared use path concept. It needs to be separated by a barrier, and it really through the public process as part of it, but also as the practicality of building it. And we found out that the guardrail, as we wanted to set it, was not crash tested. So many factors lined up to say we had to take a step back and say, although we would like to have done that shared use path, there was a number of things that really kind of prevented us from doing that. We went to a raised curbed median option, but again, based upon the drainage characteristics of that roadway and the flatness, as everybody who drives it knows, and the wideness of the pavement, it would have become a real issue with safety if we tried to curb that island in between the bike lane and the travel lane. So again, we had to go away from that just from practicality purposes, and that's where we feel that this is like it may not be the perfect solution, but it's the solution we can deliver an improved bicycle accommodation on this roadway between what it is today, which is not great, to hopefully much better when we're done with this project.
Thank you for that. And I do appreciate that. And I'm in full understanding of how we got to where we got. I just wanted to make sure to share what was shared with me. And as for the crash testing thing of the guardrail, totally understand that. Makes sense. But I think what the average person looking at this project sees was there was protection, and now there's significantly less protection, regardless of the fact of whether or not the guardrail was crash tested and could be put in use in that fashion. It still provided more protection than paint and rumble strips, and so the feeling is that it's a step back in safety, and that's just one to share. But I don't expect anything to go back in the other direction, but I do want you to know that there were some people who were pretty disappointed to see that potential go away with this project.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Are there any other comments from members? Questions?
I have
Not,
a comment.
go ahead. Or,
I just wanted to say thank you to MassDOT for working on this project. I think that it really has an opportunity to be transformative for the region. Lowell and Drake are two very different communities. I participated in the meeting as well last week, and I think as much as we can do in terms of education and outreach in the communities, making sure that the information is really digestible and clear can be very beneficial for a lot of the stakeholders. I think some of the engineering strategies or comments, I think just any way that we can make it as clear to folks about the safety recommendations would help. I've spent a lot of time thinking about safety because of the Vision Zero work, and I know that Route 110 is actually on the high engineer network and the high risk network that we've identified as part of that project. So I'm really excited about the project and I look forward to seeing it advance, but I think that there could be a huge opportunity here with this work because it is on the Merrimack Bike Trail. It's very close and it's actually straddles both of the northern Middlesex region and Merrimack Valleys. And then I had a final question. I was wondering if there will be any meetings or outreach done in the city of Lowell related to this project.
Again, the only future meeting that I'm aware of is the one that is in the process of being set up through Representative Hamilton. And I believe they're going to make that meeting opened to Lowell, Drake, Methuen officials. But I don't think it's been scheduled yet.
There's one small thing I just wanted to mention. First of all, I will say that I firmly believe that this project will improve safety of the corridor. It is an overall improvement in many ways over what's there. But there's one sort of part of the discourse that I would like to mention, and that is, at least at the public meeting last week, there was a lot of talk saying that the project is primarily impacting Drake. That's sort of the term that I heard quite a lot. I think it's worth mentioning that it is a transportation project that is connecting Lowell and Methuen as well as Lawrence through Drake, and that it's impacting hundreds of thousands of people and not just one town. And that I looked at some census data and did some quick calculations to find that about 3,600 zero-car households live within a quarter mile of the corridor and then connecting trails. So that is thousands of people who will benefit from this project and could benefit even more if the cycling infrastructure was of higher protection. And I just wanted to mention those folks because you know, it's a lot of people, but they're not in the room. And so I think it's worth mentioning them because they do exist and that these are people that would benefit from these improvements and would benefit if these improvements were even better.
Yeah,
If I might add, there was
go
a
ahead.
meeting in Drake, and then there was a meeting and there's gonna be a meeting in Methuen. It seems like Lowell's being maybe left out of the equation. I just wanted to mention. Yeah.
So
I
I
think
have my
just
hand up
overall-
just to say that as a elected official in the city of Lowell, I'm happy to do whatever I can to facilitate a meeting if MassDOT is interested. You know, I think there's, to the point, I think there's a lot of benefit to meeting with the community in Lowell and talking about this directly with the citizens who may use these or will use these facilities in one way or another. So if I can be of help to coordinate something, please reach out because I would love to help set something up like that.
Yeah, and I will contact the project manager for this particular project and let him know of the interest for Lowell and Drake to be included in this future meeting. And again, I don't want to kind of shut off commentary, but we do have a kind of a hard date that we have to meet as far as advertising. So I think getting out the information is definitely good, and then we'll certainly do that as much as we can. But I think we're kind of getting close to our final design on this project.
Thank you.
And just to add to the previous comment, we always looked at this project as a kind of a connection and not necessarily just something that affected one town or the other. And we were always aware of, the Lowell community path and then the buffered bike lanes that we could connect to at Riverside and Methuen. So, and it's also been, I think Francisco that Lavero, the completes engineer, had noted at the meeting last week that it is based upon his data that he has, his GIS data, that this is a well-used bicycle route. And I think, a lot of people at the meeting probably didn't think so, but it did show up for, very decent usage for daily use for bicyclists. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Derek?
Yeah, thank you. I'm ever the optimist, so I did want to provide some positive consideration for any upcoming public meetings that it would be important and good to remind the public of. As you saw earlier in the agenda, you approved the FFY 2025 Unified Planning Work Program, and a major task in there that's exciting for the Northern Middlesex region is active transportation and complete street planning, specifically a deliverable for a regional bicycle and pedestrian plan. As part of that work, more planning can actually take place and have more of a public process with constituents across the Northern Middlesex region in order to identify and prioritize what projects the region would like to see regionally, interregionally, for vulnerable road users, people walking, biking, using motorized non-four-wheel technology, as Karen had noted. So I definitely think this project, as it was initiated, wasn't immediately considered as an active transportation improvement, but and for the reasons Brian noted, it does sound like there's a goal to see it advertised as programmed this fiscal year, but the work we do, one of the 3Cs of 3C planning is continuing. This work's never over, and there's always opportunities to reevaluate and assess the transportation network and opportunities to improve it. So we definitely encourage the public to continue participating in that process and working with planning staff to identify what projects could potentially be initiated that accomplish or get closer to those goals for a more built out active transportation network. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek. Other thoughts or questions? All right. Don't see any. So thank you all. A lot of good comments there and considerations. And yeah, Brian, we can happy to chat offline if it's helpful, and coordinate with you all as well at NMCOG to look into any next steps here. So we'll look forward to that. But with that, we can move on to other business. Is there any other business that members have? I know our next meeting will be in July.
Yeah, Derek,
Yep.
I had two quick questions. The first is,
Yep.
so we are bringing the Greater Lowell Vision Zero plan back to the MPO in July, but I didn't know if the MPO wanted to meet in August or if that meeting, not sure. Sometimes people take a break in August, so I didn't know if that was something that the board wanted to consider. Because that, just for planning purposes for us, as we're thinking about these agendas, it'd be good to know and have a decision on that now. And then separately, there is just a notification that the MassDOT CIP process is public, and we are hosting with Merrimack Valley a meeting on the CIP next week, Tuesday, July 2. So that's on our calendar, and we're posting that to social media, etc. So that is just an opportunity for public comment on the state's capital improvement plan, and that's next week, Tuesday. But again, just back to the August meeting, I didn't know if that was something that this board wanted to consider either keeping or like going on a collective vacation.
Great. Yeah, I think with respect to items, right, we've released a couple amendments today that we'd endorse in July, but I don't think we'll have anything as, as far as tip amendments, at least, we can, we can look into that, but I don't believe we'll have anything that we'll need to take action on in August. So, unless there's, strong objections or something does come up, yeah, we typically don't meet in August if there's no items.
Okay.
So unless something comes up or, if folks do have items to add, but yeah, if anyone else feels differently, yeah, happy to open up to discussion if anyone has other thoughts or wants to just voice support for that. I know it's tough to get a quorum sometimes too in the summer months. So, okay, well, we'll plan on that then, unless something comes up. Plan for August to be canceled, but we'll of course still meet in July, and just to make sure that's on the record. The meeting in July is July 24th. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Same time, same Zoom, same words here.
Sounds good. All right. Any other business? If not, we'll move on to adjournment. I'll ask for a motion and second to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I think without objection, we can be adjourned. So we'll see you back here in July, and have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks,
you all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
day.
Thank you.
Happy 4th.
Thanks.